Go ahead and give everybody a couple of minutes just to join and get settled, and then we'll get started. Great. See, we still have people joining at pretty good clip. We'll just give it another minute or so. Right. I think we're starting to see the rate of joining start to slow just a little bit. So we'll go ahead and just get started. Welcome everybody to another iteration of Clinical Research Connections. Thank you so much for everybody joining today, for taking time out of your busy days to come and connect with your peers in the CU research community and learn from some of our presenters today. So I will go ahead and start with just a couple of quick polls as we usually do. First, what is your role in our research community? And I'll give everybody just a moment to go ahead and answer that. I hope you're all enjoying the cooler fall weather that we've been having lately. I know I certainly have been. And it looks like we have a significant representation from the coordinator class today. So thank you for all of the coordinators taking the time to come and join us. We also have some clinical research administration folks, both from department and central groups, and some regulatory and finance folks as well. So I will go ahead and ask you a follow-up question. How long have you been involved in clinical research at the university? And while you're all taking a moment to answer that, I'll just go ahead and talk through our agenda items for today. First, we're just going to have a couple of announcements from Associate Vice Chancellor for Clinical Research Operations and Services, Ben Achalier. We're going to hear from Ian Riley, who is going to talk to us about the Human Subjects Research Portal that I'm sure many of us involved in research are very familiar with. So thank you to Ian for joining us. Sarah Millian-Perez is going to speak to us about Clinicaltrials.gov and how it applies here at the university. Thank you, Sarah. And Janine Higgins is going to speak to us about the CCTSI. Thank you very much, Janine, for joining us. Thank you all for taking the time to answer that question. And we have a pretty good divide amongst folks up until we get to the 5 or more year mark. And it looks like over 50%, 57% of our responders today have been involved in research at the university for over 5 years. So I hope that means that you all like it here. All right. So I will go ahead and pass it over to Ben to make a couple of quick announcements.
Thanks, Erin. I'll keep it short and sweet. The two things I want to mention are the research and health fair that we talked about, I think last month, maybe the month before as well, is being postponed to the spring. I don't know if any of you know 365 Health, which used to be the 9 News Health Fairs, is undergoing changes, and I think they're actually shutting down that organization, and so we're looking for other partners. So I think we initially announced that that would be held at the end of October. That is no longer the case. We're still working to try and find partners to kind of set up a health and research fair. And it looks like we're going to move that to the spring. So that's one. And then the second thing I just wanted to put on everybody's calendars is December 12th is the State of Research Address from Dr. Flagg, and that is noon to 1. I think it's hybrid, so there'll be in person as well as Zoom options. And so you should see an announcement and information about that coming out pretty soon. So that's it. So with that, I guess I'll hand off to Ian to get us started on our talks today.
Thank you, Ben. I'm going to post a link in the chat here. It's just a link to the HSR portal website. The first few slides I'm going to go over kind of take information directly from the website, so just might help follow along a little bit. But my name is Ian Riley. I'm the HSR portal administrator. I just wanted to give a little overview of the Human Subjects Research Portal today. Just kind of a basic what to expect, things you might be required to provide, some problematic questions that are kind of holding some people up, as well as just some follow-up information. So let me share my screen here. Oh, already there. Okay. So this is just a screenshot from our website. If you click these little pluses here next to these individual sections, there's actually information for each of those. If you're not familiar with the portal, the website's a really good resource for you. It has guidance documents, just general information of what you may or may not need. As far as what's required to be submitted to the portal, it depends on the institution you're at and what institutions are actually involved in your study. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but if you're not sure, make sure to refer to this section, kind of see where everything stands, if you actually even need to submit it. The majority of times you do, but just in case, to save you some work, the form is very long. If you look at the getting started section on our website, it has a lot of kind of the upfront things that you're going to need before you submit. So COMRB number is a big one. A lot of people have submitted without one, but we do need that. It's what we use to track everything. Everybody else that's reviewing your studies too is going to use that number to track. If we build it in Encore, we need that number. So just some things that you'll probably need for your study. Also, just to note at the bottom here, there is an option to save and return later. The form, like I said, is very long. So if you get to a point and you're stuck and you're not sure, you don't have to do this all at once. You can save and return later. That is an option, just FYI. Now, the portal is kind of twofold. We have initials versus amendments. I just kind of wanted to briefly describe this. The only thing that drives that is this an amendment question? If you choose no, it's going to be an initial submission. Yes, it's going to be an amendment submission. The only difference, we can only accept one initial submission to the portal. Anything else that you submit to the portal after that will have to be an amendment. We can only accept the one. Unless the study's completely changed, we can probably make an exception there, particularly if the COMRB numbers change. So just kind of the differences between the two here. Now, some of the things that seem to be throwing a lot of people off or giving them issues for initial submissions, of course, we need a COMRB number. If you do put the X's in there, I will immediately have to email you and ask you for the COMRB number on one of these previous pages. So the IRB COMRB tracking number, that is actually a link. You can click on that and it'll give you instructions on how to do this. We don't need a full submission to COMRB. You're basically just submitting to them to start a shell to get the number. So that's all we need for that. A lot of people too are choosing this other sites here at the bottom of this middle screenshot. We do have two options for CU sites, so just keep that in mind. I would recommend, if you are on campus, to go through the CU medicine clinics first. If you're not in there, then go to the freestanding clinics, and there is actually another option underneath that. So if you're in like building 400, building 500, A01, stuff like that, it's going to be under the CU freestanding clinics. This green question at the bottom is what I refer to as the patient interaction question. This will drive basically your calendar build for the study. Just keep in mind that we're not really looking for patient interaction as far as like questionnaire surveys, but more invasive procedures, blood draws, any type of collection, things like that. So make sure you answer that one appropriately because it will drive a lot of questions on the form. And lastly, just to talk about some documents here, if you see this must provide value, you do need to upload something for there. More than likely, it's something that you've selected earlier on in the form that is requiring this. And just to note at the bottom, you might see some fields like budget that actually isn't required. So if you do see something like that and you're like, this doesn't apply, you only have to worry about the ones that say must provide value. But a lot of the times I will have to reach out for protocols if an application was provided. We can accept applications for retrospective studies, but we do need a protocol for the rest. Consent forms with things with patient interaction is really helpful as well. Now, as far as amendments, this is also on our website if you want to take a look. Just some of the things to keep in mind of what we need and what we don't need. Things like staff changes, unless it's a PI, consent forms, things like that we don't really need an update for. You're always welcome to submit whatever you want to the portal, but it may be extra work for you. So what we're really looking for is these items underneath, the ones that must be submitted. And then some of the problematic questions I get with the amendments. Is this an internal amendment question? Should always be no. This is only for internal staff on our side, so review specialists, people from institutions and whatnot. This is basically so that they can submit an amendment on your behalf to make little minor changes on the back end. But if you do select yes to this question, it won't get processed. They actually don't even come to me, so I will never even see them. So make sure you select no to that question. And then what site does this what sites does the study currently use? This is actually asking you what's an encore. Now, a lot of times this throws people off. For example, you submit a study initially to the portal and you forgot to include a site. You're probably going to have to submit an amendment to add that site, but you don't want to put it in this section because it's technically not an encore yet. So this is really just what is in encore. So if you're not sure, just kind of check encore or see what's listed in there and make sure this reflects exactly what's in there. And the reason for this is if it hasn't been added to the study yet, if you do select these people, the review specialists and stuff will get involved and they might be confused since it's not technically part of the study yet. And then just a reminder, we have a ton of selections for amendments. Just make sure you read through all these. Select everything that's applicable. You don't have to select one or two things, but just make sure that you go through this list and select everything that's applicable. A lot of the times, particularly like hospital services will get left off. And keep in mind too, we have, addition of a site at the top. You can add a PI or change the PI as well, things like that. So just make sure you read through this list and select everything that's applicable. And then lastly, we need all the details for the amendment. If you just put, see summary of changes, I will need to reach out. The reason for this is we get a lot of amendments, and this helps out the builders so that they don't have to dig through forms and all that kind of stuff. So if you can put all the changes here that are necessary, do your best to summarize them and try not to copy 60 pages of stuff. Okay, and then lastly on here, some follow-up information. I kind of just drafted this for myself so that I could have a screenshot of it, but this is your portal clearance. These are only provided for initial submissions, no longer amendments. It's not required for the IRB. So if you do submit an amendment, there are no portal clearances, but most portal clearances for initial submissions are sent automatically, particularly for cooperative groups, industry groups, or industry studies. So if you don't receive one within a week, you can contact us. I'll have some contact information here in a minute. Do check your junk box. A lot of the times it goes there. Most people have that issue. It just with Zendesk in general, a lot of things go to their junk box. So anyways, a lot of the follow-up information is going to be on this portal clearance. It'll talk about institutional specific things and what is kind of expected after you've submitted. You should receive a confirmation email that your submission went through, the very first thing. So that should let you know that it's gone through. The portal clearances can take a little longer sometimes, and if you are investigator initiated, it might need scientific review. So if it does, you will get portal clearance after approval of those reviews. And this is also on our website. If you click contact us, feel free to reach out for anything. if you need return codes for studies that haven't been finished, if you need to make updates for whatever reason, if you have any questions, if you ran out of placeholders for documents, you can always send those in to us. But these are all on our website, so you can click there. And that's it for me. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Ian. This is really helpful. If there are any additional questions for Ian, please go ahead and submit them through the chat unless you are comfortable speaking up now. But I don't see anybody unmuting, so we will go ahead and move on. Thank you again, Ian.
Thanks, Aaron.
So now I will pass off to Sarah Millian Perez for Clinicaltrials.gov discussion.
Thank you, Erin. So like Erin said, my name is Sarah. I am the Clinicaltrials.gov administrator, and I'm going to talk today a little bit about CT.gov and also some issues that we see with it. So Ian and I are both based in the CRSC, so I just wanted to mention briefly what we do. We offer support for a whole variety of things. So again, if you have any questions for me or Ian, you can contact Clinical Research Support Center at ucdenver.edu, and we will make sure your question gets to the right person, and we can answer your question for any of those things that I have listed there. Another thing I wanted to mention is that we send out a weekly Clinicaltrials.gov tip of the week, as well as a clinical research news and education update weekly. So those are the same email list. I just wanted to put a plug in it. If you are not on that email list, please let me know. I can get you added. If for whatever reason you would not like to be on the email list, also let me know and I can get you removed. But that's also a great way to learn more about CT.gov. I try to keep it relevant to issues that I've been seeing and keep important information in there. Also, another shameless plug is for the Clinicaltrials.gov class that's in October. It's CTSI 31. I am teaching it, and I have a lot more time to go over Clinicaltrials.gov, what it is, a little bit of the history, and I get to just delve deeper into the issues I see and helpful tips that I have. So if you are having any troubles or you're interested, I would really recommend registering for that class. I've included the link, but you can also find it on the Clinical Research Support webpage under our education section. So to briefly cover what Clinicaltrials.gov is, because maybe you haven't heard of it, or maybe it's been a long time since you have thought of Clinicaltrials.gov, it is a public online registry of clinical trials, and it is run by the National Library of Medicine at NIH. Some studies on Clinicaltrials.gov are required to register by federal regulations. Others register voluntarily. It is a little bit complicated to talk about what specific requirements there are for registration. So if you have a study that is recent and you do not know if you're required to register, please shoot me an email and we can go over that. And if you don't think you're required to register, but you're a little bit confused, you can also ask me any questions and I will definitely help you with registration. So each registered study on there has standardized information. So this is study locations, contact information, outcome measures, specific treatments and interventions, conditions and diseases. Sometimes studies have results information. Again, it's required sometimes. Sometimes people voluntarily report it. And similarly with study documents, sometimes people have documents that are required. You can also choose to have certain documents on there. And importantly, Clinicaltrials.gov can also be used as a resource for participant recruitment. So if you want to expand your participant recruitment and you are not required to register on there, it can be a really helpful resource, because when participants go onto the public-facing side, they can see if your study is actively recruiting participants or not. So I wanted to go a bit more into the different sides of clinicaltrials.gov because there is some confusion about that sometimes. So there's the public facing side of clinicaltrials.gov, which recently just got a facelift because they renovated the website. So it's looking a lot more new and sleek, and that's the side on the left. And then there is the PRS side. So PRS stands for Protocol Registration and Result System side. That's the side that we mainly are on at the university. So if you're registering a study or if you're editing information for your study, you're going to be on the PRS side. It is not looking as beautiful. They are currently doing beta testing for the PRS side. So hopefully one day soon in the next year or so, it will look a little bit nicer and a little bit easier to use. I also wanted to mention that you need to create an account for clinicaltrials.gov through the university. So you shouldn't just go to the public facing side of clinicaltrials.gov and try to create an account. If you do not have one already, please email us and we will create one for you. If you end up creating an account and then registering a study that's not through the university, there can be some issues there. And I can't make sure that you're following all of the proper regulations. So if that has happened, let me know. It can be an easy fix and we just need to contact some people, but I just wanted to put that in there because sometimes I see some confusion with that. I also wanted to talk about some recent updates in the past several years. So the most relevant one is a change to the consent form posting policy. So if you have an applicable clinical trial that was IRB approved after January 21st, 2019, you are now required to post your consent forms that have been used to consent a participant within 60 days of study closure. So if you have a recent study or if you are having a study that's currently being approved by the IRB, that's just something to note. You can also upload that before your study has closed. So the timeline for when you do that isn't relevant until your study closure. Like I said, there is beta testing going on for the PRS side of the webpage. You can go on there, but I really wouldn't recommend it because there have been a lot of issues and errors on that side. So with the tip of the week, I plan when the PRS side has fully launched the beta website, I will send out an announcement that it is live and hopefully have some tips and tricks because it's going to look a little bit different than it does now. I also wanted to turn to some common questions and issues that we get. So a lot of people ask if study team members are allowed to register studies or edit studies that are in CT.gov, and the answer is yes. They also can have an account that's created for them. The only thing to note, though, is if you are a coordinator or a PRA and you are registering a study, just let me know because the PI does need to have an account and they do need to be considered the record owner. If you register a study, you're automatically made the record owner. And unfortunately, only an administrator can change who the record owner is, but it's a very quick fix. Another really important thing to note is that at CU, we say best practice is to register before your first participant has been enrolled. So there's a lot of different rules and timelines when it comes to when you need to register, but just across the board, best practice to make sure you are meeting all of those regulations and requirements is to register before your first participant has enrolled. And then again, if you are unsure if you need to register or what needs to be on there, please shoot us an email and we can work through your specific study and figure out what needs to be registered on CT.gov. I'm going to turn to our biggest common issue, which is outcome measures. If you have been on clinicaltrials.gov and you have had issues with outcome measures, do not worry because just about everybody struggles with outcome measures. It is very difficult to report them on clinicaltrials.gov, so I was hoping to help with some of the common questions and issues I see. Really quickly, what outcome measures are? They are the data measurements gathered from your study. The way I like to think about this is if you were to publish your study in a journal, how are you going to format this information into a table? What is this going to look like? What numbers and quantifiable information would you be reporting in that published journal? So an example of an outcome measure is systolic blood pressure, so a quantifiable number measured at baseline. I also have a screenshot from clinicaltrials.gov of an example of what, when you input your outcome measures, it looks like. So you separate your outcome measures into primary and secondary. You have a title for each outcome measure. You have a description where you're able to further explain what is being measured. And then you also have a time frame for when specifically this measurement is being taken. So let's go into the common issues and mistakes that we tend to see. The first one is that multiple outcome measures are being reported in the same outcome measure. So for example, going off of systolic blood pressure, this would be maybe you put systolic blood pressure and heart rate measured at baseline. If you think about the table, which I have at the bottom of the slide, you wouldn't be able to put both of those numbers into one cell. Those would be two distinct numbers you would report into two cells. So you would want to make sure those are two distinct outcome measures in Clinicaltrials.gov. Additionally, a lot of people will report multiple time points in the same outcome measure. So this may be you are recording systolic blood pressure at baseline and then 3 weeks after your intervention. Again, if you think about that as if you're formatting a table, it would be impossible to report those two numbers unless you were reporting a change in those numbers in one cell. So you're going to want to make sure that those outcome measures are separated into the two different time frames that they're being measured at. Another issue we see a lot is that you are not clearly defining your outcome measures. So for example, this is blood pressure at baseline. You're going to want to be a bit more specific about what specifically you are measuring. Something I tell people that I think is a little bit helpful is if you were to describe to a participant in your study what specifically you're measuring, you wouldn't want to drone on for 10 minutes about the specific measurement, but you also want to give them enough information so that they're informed to know exactly what is being measured from them. So it's very similar for Clinicaltrials.gov. You want to be thorough, but also succinct in describing what specifically you're measuring. And then lastly, another issue we see is that the time frame is not clearly defined. So this could be for duration of participation. Again, if you're a participant in the study and you say, oh, well, it's going to be measured for the duration of participation. As a participant, you want to know specifically when your blood pressure is going to be measured. Is it going to be measured once? Is it going to be measured 5 times throughout the study? So you want to make sure that you are also thorough and succinct in describing how frequently and when your outcome measures are going to be measured. Another common issue we see is updating your record every 12 months. So this applies to any study that has been registered in Clinicaltrials.gov. Once you've been registered, this regulation applies to you. So if you were not required to register initially, but then you did, unfortunately, you have to follow this rule. A big issue that I see is people will not go and update the record verification date when they're updating other information in their study. And this is just a reminder to do that. I also send out monthly reminder emails to update your studies. So it's not something I will let you forget if you have not updated your study in the last 12 months. And then again, if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to reach out to the CRSC and we will help you through any step of the process when it comes to CT.gov. And then I would also recommend coming to my class in a month where I talk a lot more about Clinicaltrials.gov and I go further into results reporting and outcome measures and other issues I see. Thank you so much. And please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I highly recommend that Clinicaltrials.gov class as well. Lori, thank you for noting in the chat that UC Health requires an NCT number, which is the number assigned by Clinicaltrials.gov as a record ID when you register your trial to be inputted in Encore prior to opening the study. Thank you, Lori. And so now I will hand it over to Janine Higgins to discuss the CCTSI.
Thanks, everybody. Let me share these slides with you. And while I'm doing that, I want to let everybody know that the CCTSI You probably read in the Dean's newsletter this week, has been refunded for another 7 years, not 5. So we're all really very excited about that and happy to provide all of our CCTSI services and CTRC services that you use for another 7 years. So we're really excited to be partnering with all of you again over the next time frame. Ooh, not advancing. Okay. So the CTSA program is the Clinical and Translational Sciences program. It is a national consortium that's funded by NIH that basically allows us to collaborate. There are about 60 funded hubs right now. And the idea is that all these CTSA hubs will come together and transform how clinical and translational science is conducted nationwide to remove barriers for conducting translational research and bring therapies to patients or prevention treatments and prevention resources to patients faster. Each particular hub, so Colorado is one hub, we provide local resources, facilities, personnel, lots of funding, which I'll go through briefly, regulatory and informatics support, CTRCs, our clinical research units, and education and training programs. And our grants originate from NCATS at the NIH, which is the National Center for Advancing Translational Science. We are the CTSA hub here in Colorado, the Colorado Clinical and Translational Sciences Institute, or CCTSI. I only got this job, I think, as Director of Operations because I can actually say Colorado and Clinical Translational Sciences Institute. It's not easy. This is the 4th time we've been funded for this program. And most of you who've been here a while know that every iteration of the CCTSI is a little bit different and has a little bit different focus than the one before. We actually also receive amazing support and financial help from our institutional partners, from UC Health, from Children's Hospital, from the Dean, and other sources from our partners. And we're very fortunate that everybody really believes in what we're doing and the resources we provide, and really makes it possible for us to provide all the things we do for our fellows, postdocs, trainees, and research teams, actually. So we have 3 universities involved, which is CU Anschutz, CU Boulder, and CSU up in Fort Collins, and 6 hospital partners, in addition to the ones on campus here that you're all familiar with. We also partner with the VA Medical Center, National Jewish, Denver Health, and so on. The important thing about the CCTSI, as opposed to things like the Cancer Center or Center for Women's Health, is that our purpose is specifically and mandated by NIH to be disease agnostic. So if you can think of a research study to do, we will try and support it no matter what area or subspecialty that research might happen to be in. Our vision is to accelerate and catalyze the translation of innovative science into improved, equitable health and patient care for all. And the way we're going to do this is to catalyze not only scientific discovery, but dissemination and translation for all people and patients across the lifespan, to educate and sustain a resilient and diverse scientific workforce that includes our investigators, our research professionals, our administrative professionals, right across the whole team that's involved in translational research and science. We want to promote and ensure efficient, safe, and integrated research environments like our CTRCs. And we want to involve a big, broad range of stakeholders and communities right across Colorado, across the translational research spectrum. And we do have, through our community engagement and health equity core, dozens of small clinics around the state that are involved in this work of connection and engaging stakeholders and communities. This is a sort of a catch-all slide. You'll get these slides. Each of these links sends you to each of these programs. I wanted to give you a big 1,000-foot view of all the things that we offer, and I'll get into a few more in detail that most people on this call will likely use. We do education, training, and career development. So we offer K scholarships, a pre and a postdoc T32s and our T32s. We have other career development opportunities, and they can all be found on our webpage if you or your investigators are interested in these programs. We offer research facilities, and most of you know about our Clinical Translational Research Centres, or CTRCs, here on campus. We have one at Children's Hospital. We have our inpatient unit and University of Colorado Hospital up on the 12th floor. And here in the Anschutz Health Sciences building, we have our adult outpatient CTRC, and we support a full spectrum of research in each of those facilities. We do community engagement and health equity research. We do immersion training. This is where investigators or study teams can actually go to a community where they plan to do research, be embedded in the community, learn the community's needs, learn how to communicate and interact best with that community. We also do boot camp translation, which allows investigators or study teams to get a full service consult from community members and experts in the type of outreach research they would like to do, or health outcomes research they would like to do. So that's a very valuable program if you're planning to take your community, your research to the community, or even recruit from specific communities. We do dissemination and implementation research, and provide people with the tools, educations, and consults to achieve implementation themselves for their own research. We do teaming workshops. We provide biostats and design resources through our BIRD, Biostatistics, Epidemiology, and Research Design Services, which is part of CEDAR, which is the large on-campus Center for Innovative Design and Analysis. So you have access to that through the CTRCs or the CCTSI. We do support translational informatics. So we actually install and run the REDCap instances on campus, Health Data Compass. We provide funding for that, and NC3, which is the National COVID Collaborative Cohort, which is millions and millions of data points in people with and without COVID. And Colorado Profiles, where you can find mentors and collaborators here at CU. Our research bioethics service provides consults for people who may be interested in recruiting special populations for a study and wants to talk about the ethics and the approaches to their recruitment strategy. So that's just an example. They do all sorts of bioethics consults. We definitely work with Alison Lakin's office, providing support for regulatory, all sorts of regulatory options, but we support staffing and resources for Encore. We provide trainings across campus and DSMB assistance should you need that. We provide a lot of pilot funding, which I'll talk about in a minute, for different projects across campus. We have a trial innovation network, which you may be interested in if you want to do a multi-center study. And we do run iCore customer discovery training, which if you've got you or your study team or PI has a great idea that they think could make it out in the world as a consumer product, iCore is the first step in going down that route. And finally, our early life exposures program is specifically tailored towards the needs of perinatal populations. So pregnant women, their offspring, and young children. Everything you need is on our website. The general CCTSI website is here. Most of you are very familiar with the CTRC website. We provide specialty research nursing services, core lab services specifically for your research study, nutrition services. We do consults if you're not sure about what sort of nutrition outcome you need or what tool you'll need. We can help you choose that and also help you deliver an intervention. At the adult CTRC outpatient, we do cardiovascular bioimaging. We measure exercise, perform exercise and measure body composition in both adults and children. And we, of course, have our excellent CTRC service, scheduling service for our adult CTRC. If you ever want to know pricing at any point in time, there are links for pricing for each of these services on the website that are readily available and up to date. So the thing that most of you are familiar with, and if you're not, please come and see us if you'd like to conduct a trial with us, are our CTRCs. We have inpatient and outpatient facilities. Unlike the hospital, we don't charge for space unless it's an industry study, in which case we charge quite reasonable rates. We provide specialty nursing services, including inpatient services, outpatient services, and mobile teams for specialty studies where the patients can't come to us. We need to go to them following surgery or so on. Our nutrition core provides diets and ad lib feeding for studies. We have whole room calorimetry and body composition measurements. We have adult vascular ultrasonography, echoes, and liver elastography. We have core laboratories and specimen processing. And really important, if you're with a junior investigator as a PI, we provide microgrants for any CTRC services for CTRC studies. And we provide $10,000 a year for up to 3 years for those protocols. And we get pretty busy. We've got currently well over 200. It's about 250 unique PIs conducting over 500 CTRC protocols each year just on this campus. And we do provide highly subsidized pricing for investigator-initiated studies. Minimum subsidy is about 30% on each service. So it's a good deal. And just to let you know that we're disease agnostic, these are our protocols in 2022, just on the adult side. We had 300 protocols, 145 investigators. We saw 30 divisions or sections, and right across this gambit of subspecialties. Our pilot awards, which would be really important for your study teams, perhaps for your PIs, we give over around $1 million in pilot grants a year to do studies at the CTRC across each arm of our program: community engagement, translational methods, our regular pilots, which are mostly bench work or adult trials, clinical trials. And we also do a child maternal health pilots as well. We have a specific award for CSU collaborative pilots as well, if you have collaborators up at CSU. We actually provide a lot of funding and support for translational informatics on campus, led by Tel Bennett and Melissa Handel. Again, we support all the REDCap instances on campus. We support Health Data Compass, Colorado Profiles. We support data delivery and cohort discovery through multiple mechanisms. And we provide support, financial support and personnel support for a lot of applications for grant review and education programs on campus to do with translational informatics. We have something new that came up last year, which was communicating your science to the public. We ran 1 or 2 sessions in 2021, 3 more last year. It's a way to combat disinformation and misinformation by training people who are engaged in research to package their research and deliver their messages clearly and thoroughly. So if you're interested in this program, the details can also be found on our website. And finally, our community engagement and health equity core, a huge program. We reach dozens of communities in the Colorado state. We have community research liaisons, which are 6 people embedded in different communities around Colorado. We pay part of their salary. They're very embedded in their own particular communities. Some are rural, some are frontier, some are close to downtown. They're very urban communities. And in that way, we stay connected with those communities, the activities of those communities, and what we can also bring to those communities in terms of the research that they would like to conduct and the sorts of information, reliable information they would like to receive. We do this immersion training in different communities. The new thing that we're starting with the grant that we just got funded that we're really excited about is we've been doing a lot of training on campus to get our researchers, our PIs, our research professionals, our administrators ready to work out in the community. And what we're starting now is the reciprocal program, which is getting community-based organizations and community members ready to work with academicians. So really increasing the readiness for those partnerships. We do community engagement consults. We have a pilot program. The boot camp translation is pretty intense. It's a way to find out, get a lot of help and advice from people in the community you want to go to. So that's a really fun one. And we also have an introduction to community-based participatory research for partnerships that are established or trying to get established. So this is really important for our T3, T4 research. Finally, I just want to let you know we do have a resource if you're involved in multi-center trials, to identify partners outside this university or to be part of an external trial that's looking for additional sites. And it's called our Trial Innovation Network. And you can find out more about that again on our website. Finally, sorry about that. We do a lot with Alison Lakin's office. We support FDA submissions. We have staff and an office to do that. We do education and training and study startup and management. We're involved in a lot of that on the campus level. And, you know, thinking about research agreements, all the kinds of research agreements you need and the type of support that you need for those, we support that. Study drug and device management. And of course, we've had a lot to do with the establishment and ongoing maintenance and use of Encore since its inception here. So with that, I will leave you with this beautiful view of the maroon bells and ask if anyone has any questions. Again, thank you all for those of you who use the CTRC. The CTRC user satisfaction survey that we send out each year will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So if you do use the CTRCs, please respond to that survey. Get everyone in your study team to respond to that survey, because that lets us know what you like and what you don't like and how to move forward and how to best meet your needs over the coming year. So thanks for having me, and have a great day.
Janine, I'd like to take this opportunity for one plug, since this is a huge target group for us. Those of you that use the CTRC know that we're provided with parking codes from Terry Carruthers' office to support free parking for participants. And I just want to reiterate that those codes are for participants only, and the parking office has undertaken an audit and reconciliation of the utilization of that code. And when they discover abuses, they're asking people to repay the parking office for the personal parking charges that they would have incurred. So please spread the word, and please use those codes carefully so that they're not abused, so that we don't lose that opportunity funded by Terry's office to support free parking for research participants.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that that information. And thank you so much, Janine, for this overview of the CTSI and the many things that the CCTSI is involved in. We sincerely appreciate you joining us today. So if there are any questions for Janine regarding CCTSI or services, or for any of our other presenters, please go ahead and unmute yourself, or if you want to add your questions to the chats. I'm not seeing any yet, but again, congratulations to the CCTSI for the renewal, the well-deserved renewal of that grant funding as well. All right, if there are no other questions, then I'll just remind everybody that a link to the recording will be sent out at the end of the week. So I know that these were really valuable presentations and also very information dense. So if you keep an eye on your inbox, you'll get a link to that. Please disseminate the information far and wide to your teams as well. And if you are looking for a schedule of upcoming clinical research connections meetings, please go ahead and visit our website at CREST, and you'll be able to find upcoming meeting dates there. So with that said, if there are no other questions, I will go ahead and give everybody about 10 minutes of their time back. Thank you very much again to our presenters, and thank you everybody for joining us today.